Welcome to a new chat about unweaving identities. I haven't done my practice yet, so I am speaking from unconsciousness for sure. I think we all speak from unconsciousness to some degree. But really, I've come from a conversation with my partner around the suffering that we encounter in our life around expectations and being unsatisfied with life. And it really started to move for me in the spirit of transparency, I'm working with identities, parts of myself that are sometimes hard to name and others are very clear. The one that I'm consciously working with right now is the identity of being unworthy, like how much I identify and how unworthiness and not being enough, or at even moments too much, is weaved into the identity of who Adriana is, and feeling and finding the thread of that and kind of pulling it in to see where it leads. And as I do this, I see how it's connected to many different parts of my life, in my work, in my mothering, in being whatever role I'm playing for someone, partner, mother, sister, friend, mentor, teacher, healer, guide, whatever. There's that thread pulses through all of it. And we were talking about our identities as far as what we do in the world. He was talking about his role as a teacher and his role as a massage therapist, and how the expectations of life, the expectations of that identity of not feeling enough, how they kind of move through both of those things. And in the moment that he was speaking, because he was trying to share where he's at mentally when it comes to exploring both of those things, I started to take in that same question that he was asking himself into me. And it started to stir a lot of uncertainty. And I've done so much work around uncertainty and doubt that it no longer scares me as much as it used to. But it is definitely something that I constantly am edging with, right? And so as I was feeling what was moving inside of me, receiving his own internal process of what he's living, I began to go back to memories of the ways that I identified myself as a good person, as a good healer, as a good energy worker, and how those, although I would be validated from the outside that I did a good job, something inside of me was not satisfied. And for those of you, I don't know, this is YouTube, so I just assume that people that watch my videos know me and have known my path, but I'm aware I'm in this wider web of connection. So my name is Adriana. I've been on the spiritual path for about 9 years. I started with a spontaneous awakening of feeling energy in my body, seeing things, intense dreams. I ended up creating a business called Dancing Dragons, where we did energy work and I channeled codes, drawn and spoken. And that business supported my family for a really long time, like almost 2 years. And then COVID happened and I got the strong guidance that it was time to let my business go, which was a really hard thing to do because it was my baby and it was also my source of income. So at that time, I moved in with my mom and let go of my business, because the guidance was, my inner voice was telling me that it's time to like focus inward, because it got to a point where I would be in sessions with clients and I couldn't be present for them because I was so much in my mind about how I felt their healing needed to go. At that time, I did energy work, and I remember that the energy work was always very powerful for people, and it was even powerful for me. And it was an energy style that like was very natural to me. It was I didn't get certified in it, like I didn't take any classes. It was like this awakening of energy inside me woke up memories on how I personally work with energy. And I just started sharing it without even thinking about the consequences, or it was just like, I'm gonna trust. And I connected with a lot of beautiful people. I did a lot of beautiful work, and I helped those that really needed it in their time of need. And towards the end of my 2 years doing that, maybe a year and a half, I don't know, time is weird. And I didn't do it alone. I did it with a friend as well, with a page on Facebook called Magic in the Cosmos. Her name is Misty. Hi, Misty. If you're watching, I don't even know. But point is that I got to a point in my sessions where I could see someone's energy body. I could see their chakras. I could see the energy flow. And then I could see these like blockages in the body. And I would clear the energy and I would try to clear it out, but it wouldn't budge, like it wouldn't move, or it would move and then the client would come back a few like months later and be like, hey, this thing is back. And at the time I was seeing like these blockages were actually emotion, and I didn't know how to work with emotion. I just knew that it was out of my control, that I couldn't clear that blockage from the client because it wasn't up to me to clear it. It was up to the client. And so I became insatisfied with the work I was doing because I wanted their healing to be deeper. And in sessions, I started to become so attached to my expectation of them for healing that I wasn't present with them anymore. I was like fighting in my mind about what they should do to get healed. And I knew it was my ego. And I would even like hear guidance in my head, because I used to channel messages as intuitive readings, and I would give people advice. And I literally could not give the advice that I was channeling because my ego was fighting it. Like in my mind, I was having conversations of me telling the divine voice inside, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. I sound crazy when I talk about this, but whatever, it's real. Like this is what I lived. So I let go of the business because of that, because I knew I had internal work to do. I still did readings and calls. I didn't completely stop, but I let go of the business, the energetic container that was Dancing Dragons, which was what my business was called. And now that I'm in this place where I'm doing an active daily practice to let go of attachments, I see my identity back then as one that needed to feel satisfied by a session with a client, because there was an expectation that that person who I was working with had to mirror my value, because in my mind, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't a good healer if I didn't transform them completely. Did that make sense? Like, I would see a client, I would work with them, and what I wanted to happen, what I wanted the client to go through, and my expectation of what I thought would be healing for them, when that wasn't met or the client didn't meet it, I was highly unsatisfied and disappointed in myself and in the work that I was doing. And now that I'm here, years later, like 5 years later, more like 6, which is kind of embarrassing. I'm feeling a lot of shame right now. I can see how I was projecting onto my clients that they had to satisfy me by doing the deep healing that I wanted them to do. And how that still exists in how I interact with clients now. Not as much, because the goddess has humbled me. The goddess has definitely humbled me. As a womb healer now, when I go into session and I guide through somatic practice and I allow the goddess to come in and take control, my ego steps out of the way. And I know that whatever happens in that time for that person is between them and goddess, between them and the divine. And I'm out of the equation. And that has felt very nourishing, and it's really allowed my ego to take a fucking step back in the healing space, because it doesn't belong there and it actually gets in the way a lot of the time. But it still happens. I remember I created a service called Unfold, and Unfold was created by a direct experience with the client, where I went in with the expectation of doing an intuitive reading, and I didn't say a single word the whole hour and a half. They just spoke. They just talked the whole time. And I just sat and received and witnessed them and asked them questions to guide them very gently when they started to talk about other people, or I felt like they were disconnecting from themselves. I would just ask a very gentle question to return them back into what they were living. And then at the end, it's like they received the guidance that they were asking me for, but through their own words and their own body, by just me being there. And the session was amazing for the client. Oh my God, thank you, it was amazing. But for me, I felt highly unsatisfied. I was like, I didn't do anything. Literally, I didn't do anything. Maybe I asked 2-3 questions, but I just sat there and just watched, I witnessed you. And that challenged directly my identity as a healer, that comes with the expectation that I have to do something in order for healing to happen. And so I'm sharing all of this because it's in direct unweaving of the ways in which my identity of not being good enough, because what I expected from that session was for her to receive something from me and then directly say, oh my God, what you did was amazing. And I did get that, but not the way that I expected it. And because of that, it created insatisfaction. And so I'm sitting here receiving my partner's conversation. I'm living this inside of my body and realizing how much suffering and how much disservice I don't know if disservice, that feels a little judgmental because this is a human thing. But how much of my suffering in life is rooted in the world and people not meeting my expectations, and how my expectations come from greed, and how my identity of feeling not good enough comes from greed. Now, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but for me, I can feel it. Because no matter how much validation I get, it's never enough. And if it's never enough, and I want more and more and more and more, tell me that you love me. Tell me I'm a good healer. Tell me I'm amazing. Tell me. And people tell me and I don't believe it. It keeps me in this loop of fucking seeking to extract people's love. And it's never enough, because that part of me that feels it's not enough is like this empty hole. And I don't want to judge that part of me, because I know that I, Adriana, have lived things in this body that have made me live the experience of not being good enough. And so I know that this part of me is also deeply in pain of all the ways in which she was abandoned and rejected and exiled and judged. And so I know that this part of me just needs love, needs my own love, because when I give myself my own love, all of a sudden it is enough. Like everything is okay, like I don't need anything. And I'm aware how much of what I'm living is also threaded into the collective. Because how much of our modern lives do we experience not having enough, not feeling enough? That lack mentality that runs, and how that is greed, and how our world is being destroyed by it. I mean, look at AI, right? All I see on my feed are how there's going to be a water crisis because of all of the water that this AI infrastructure needs in order to keep growing. And they're building one where I live. They're actually building 3, which is ridiculous. I'm not going to go into that side piece of exploration. But I am feeling how this thread of not having enough, of not feeling enough, of feeling dissatisfied with who we are, with what we're living, and the needing more comes from greed. And that's not to say that we don't deserve abundance and wealth, because we do. It's our birthright. But that's where it gets very nuanced, right? At least for me. Because when I feel into my greed, into that part of me, of my identity that feels not good enough and that thinks, oh, I need this thing, and when I get this thing, then I'll feel good. And it's actually, for example, like one of the things that I wanted to do is exercise when I had my baby. And every time I try, like I get so exhausted and tired immediately. And I began to listen to that. And as I'm listening to that, I can feel how my desire to exercise comes from a place of feeling like I need to feel strong in my body, because there is a part of me that feels weak, not enough. And my body is literally shutting down at taking action towards desires that are rooted in greed. I'll call it greed because I don't know what else to call it. Whatever word you have, use it. If this is even resonating. And I'm just saying this because I know I'm not the only one who doesn't feel enough. And I'm just offering a different perspective of my own lived experience that just happened like 30 minutes ago. And I don't have the answers. And the only thing that's making sense right now as I'm talking to you, listener and watcher, is gratitude. Like when I return to myself and I give that part of me love and presence, I can connect to a place where I don't need anything. And that I'm grateful for everything I do have. And from here, from this place of gratitude and deep presence with that part of me, with compassion. I can say, like, you don't have to look for love. You don't have to find it somewhere else. You are love. I love you. And see, from here, I can connect with desires. And I want to take action now. This is beautiful. I'm going to stay with myself for a little longer before I keep talking. From this place of gratitude and love, my desire comes back of wanting to help people. My desire comes back as wanting to exercise because I want to take care of my body. Because I want to feel. Because my body deserves care. And that is a way I know my body will be cared for. So the desires don't go away. It's not wrong to have desires. But it is really important for us to feel that part of us that wants more, that doesn't feel good enough, that seeks to get better at who we are and what we're doing, to get more money, to get more stability, to all of those things that we desire in life. If we can root them back into this place of love and gratitude, it changes the way that we affect the world through our desires. I'm going to move on to my practice from this place because it feels really beautiful. Thanks for listening. Thanks for unweaving with me. Thanks for being who you are. I'll talk to you later. Bye.